Hey everybody, Dean here, just back with the second video in the How I Bike Pack series. The first video that came out was about my bike packing kitchen, and it did pretty well, and I thank everybody that tuned in and watched that. I really appreciate it. So in this video, I thought I would talk about how I maintain my bike while I'm out on the road, bike packing and touring. So this is kind of the tools I take, how I use them, and how I keep my bike running good while I'm out there. Okay guys, those of you that watched the last video might remember me saying when it came to the bike kitchen is the best thing that I can tell you is to keep it simple. And the same thing applies with the bike maintenance. When I first started doing the bike packing and touring thing, coming from a bike mechanic background, which I have 15 plus years of experience being a bike mechanic, I was like trying to be prepared for every possible scenario, and I had probably about 10 pounds of tools with me, if I'm being honest. I was using a trailer, so that also factored into carrying too much stuff as well, but that could be a whole nother video in itself, so we won't get into that. But so yeah, after a lot of trial and error, I just realized what you really need is the basic stuff. So what we're going to cover today is the tools I'm carrying, and I'm just going to go through kind of each tool and let you know why I have it and why I'm carrying it. Some tools aren't going to be used a lot, but like a lot of other equipment you carry, like a first aid kit, you need to carry this stuff. Hopefully you never use it, but if you do, it's good to have it. Okay guys, one of the things I want to mention before we get into breaking down every little single thing I have here is that one key to making sure your bike's going to perform for you really well on a bike packing trip is to make sure that it's running good before you get out on the road. Whether that's something you do yourself or you take it to a bike shop, really making sure that everything's performing properly. Sometimes you might not see something, like you could have a broken spoke. It's common. As a bike mechanic in a bike shop, you don't know how many times I've had a bike come in for repair. Owner doesn't think there's anything wrong with it, and there's 1, 2, maybe 3 broken spokes that they didn't even know about. So making sure that that bike's ready to go before you hit the trails is really crucial. Okay guys, like I said, one thing I found out real fast is you don't need every tool made for bike mechanics. You need the necessities. And what I mean by that is you need the stuff to clean your drivetrain, which is by far the most. And then you need stuff in case stuff does happen, as we'll go through. Quick links for your chain, a couple spare chain links if you can, spokes, stuff like that. But we're going to go through each piece one at a time. I'm going to start with the most important parts that you're going to do on a regular basis, and that's drivetrain maintenance and also tire pressure, air inflation. So let's get into it. Okay guys, there's no getting around what for me the star of the show is. A lot of people might not want to take this because they're going to think it's weight and bulky, but I carry the Park Tools chain cleaner, and I'm going to tell you one thing right now. It's not that big, as you can see. It's fairly flat. I put it on the bottom of my pannier in a freezer Ziploc bag. Just make sure nothing leaks out if there's anything in it. There is a handle that goes with it for shop use, but I don't carry it. You don't need it, as you'll see. And this is what's really needed to keep your chain really clean. The main thing with cleaning a chain, guys, is getting in where the rollers are in between links and getting that fine grit out. That stuff that gets in there is what wears the chain out and eventually makes it snap. You might go into a bike shop sometimes and they'll tell you that your chain is worn out or stretched. The truth is a chain doesn't stretch. What happens is it gets looser and more play, like I said, where it links and in your rollers. So that's kind of what happens. And the more grit and dirt that stays in there, the faster that's going to happen and that those are going to wear out and you're not going to have a smooth drivetrain. Okay guys, like I said, for me, this is a no-brainer. On a shorter trip, maybe you don't need to take this, but you do need to, for me, like really kind of cleaning up your chain after every day of riding is almost crucial. I will admit I don't do that, so probably every other day, if nothing else, would be my recommendation. But like I said, this for me is my best tool while I'm out touring, in conjunction with a little dish soap and then a good rag to keep your chain clean. You can go through a bunch of rags, you know, you get a motel room, steal a cloth, whatever. But yeah, a rag to keep with you to wipe the chain down before you clean it. After you run it through the chain cleaner, you're going to want to rinse, get rid of all the degreaser off it. So you're also going to want to put a little clean water in here and then run it through the chain again. Run it through your towel, get all that off. If you have time, if it's the end of the day at camp, let everything dry. Apply your lube. Now here's the key, guys, with lube. A lot of people get up in the morning, and I'm guilty of it sometimes myself. You get up in the morning, you're getting ready to get out on the road, break down camp, and you throw some lube on. Truthfully, you're wasting the lube. It will help a bit, but it's going to wear off really fast. So at night, you get to camp, you do all your thing with your chain, clean it, do the right thing, and then take your lube out. I'm going to go through what lube I use, but I'm really not going to get into that too much. Everybody has their preferences, but I'll cover that in a minute. But yeah, you get your lube, lube your chain, and then once you're done lubing the chain, the only part on the chain that really needs to be lubed for performance is the inside of the chain that contacts your cassette, your chain ring, and your cassette and your jockey pulleys on your rear derailleur. So once you're done lubing it, take your rag, and then on the bottom side and the outer of the chain, take off the excess lube, because all that will do is attract dirt. So once you get the excess off, now leave that chain. You're not riding for the rest of the night. Most people nowadays are using a good ceramic or synthetic lube, and the longer you can let that set up on the chain, the longer it's going to last. So keep that in mind. So like I said, guys, this is an excellent chain cleaner. There are others that do kind of the same thing, so you can check those off. Muckoff has one and stuff like that. But for me, I've always used this at the shops I've worked at and at home, so I highly recommend this tool. Okay guys, let's talk about chain lube. Myself, I use the Muckoff C3 ceramic lube. This is a dry lube. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about things. There's wet lube and there's dry lube. The names kind of say it all. A wet lube is made for wet, rainy conditions. You know, let's say you live in Vancouver or something like that. It stays on better during wet conditions. The downside to a wet lube is that if you are in dry conditions and it's not raining, it will attract dirt and make your drivetrain dirtier faster. So I use a dry lube, hence the name, is for more dry conditions. What I've started doing, and I don't have any wet lube with me to show you, is I'm carrying a smaller bottle of wet lube along with the dry lube that I use more, just in case. There's days where you get caught in rainstorms and within an hour your chain is completely stripped of oil, and those of you that get out there and know this, there's nothing worse than having a crunchy drivetrain all day. So getting a good lube, get the one that you like. There's many different brands and varieties. White Lightning's been doing it forever. Muckoff's great, like I said, the one I recommend. But yeah, getting yourself a good quality lube and then making sure you're using it on a regular basis. The main thing I can tell you about drivetrain maintenance is be consistent with it. You can't do it once a week and expect that you're going to make your stuff last or that you're going to get the best performance out of your stuff as well. So just making sure everything's clean. You don't have to get crazy about it, but like I said, if you can do it at the end of every day, bonus, but every other day would probably be a good recommendation. Another good thing to do on a regular basis, again, maybe you don't have to do it every day or even every other day, but if you're out on the road for an extended amount of time, making sure all the bolts on your racks and all that stuff is tight is crucial, because there's no better way to have a rack snap than a loose bolt. So just go around every once in a while, take out your Allen key and check it out. You may find that they're all fine, and that's cool. One thing to keep in mind when you're going around checking your bolts, if they're already properly tightened, don't try to reef them more, because now you're over tightening them, which can also cause a bolt to snap. So if you see it, if you put a little pressure on it and it's still tight, then that's it, you know you're good. So another thing I would recommend with your racks is put a little blue Loctite on the bolts when you're putting the rack on. It will just help the bolts stay tight and not loosen off as quickly. Okay guys, so making sure to pay attention to tire inflation is crucial. I never used to pay attention to that. I thought I was doing a good job, do the squeeze test. Being a bike mechanic, I've done it thousands of times. The truth is I could be off by as much as 3-4 PSI. When you're running a tire such as the Vittoria Mescal at 2.6, I believe the maximum PSI is 35. So if you're off by 3 or 4 PSI with a tire like that, it could either be really slow or too hard in either direction, right? So for that reason, I've started carrying the Blackburn Digital Air Gauge. There's a lot of people out there that will tell you these are widely wrong, but I've come by checking with the Good Park Tools shop pump at the bike shop and then comparing it to this, that it's actually pretty accurate. So I now carry this with me along with my pump. I did forget it. I'm going to go home and I'll take a picture and I'll put it in right now. I'm using a Bontrager. It's a great pump. A lot of people like to use a smaller one. The reason I like to use this bigger pump is because if I do have a problem where I take a puncture and I have to reinflate my tire being tubeless, I like to have that little bit of extra oomph to get that bead to seat on the rim. And those of you that know about tubeless will understand that. I'm not going to really get into all that right now. But yeah, making sure your tires are properly inflated every single day. So every morning, get up, check your tires. Honestly, most modern day wheel sets need to be inflated on a daily basis. I know that sounds crazy, but they really do. And that's something we learn at the shop really quick, really early on in my experience working at the bike shop. Another good thing to do too is keep an eye on your spokes. Like I just mentioned earlier, it's really common for us to put a bike in the stand and tell the customer they've got a couple broken spokes. They didn't know about it. A properly tensioned wheel, if it has a spoke or two go out, is not going to fail for most part anyways. So make sure you keep an eye on that. So yeah, I even carry around a couple extra spokes. The thing with the spokes is you're probably not going to be installing them on the side of a trail or anything. But in a lot of cases, you could go to a bike shop and they might not have the right length of spoke for you, or if you're using straight pull spokes like I do, they may not have them. They might only have J-bend, right? So make sure, carry a couple extra spokes. They're very flat, obviously, can fit in the back of a bag, in the frame bag, anything. So a couple extra spokes in regards to your wheels is always crucial to keep with you. Okay guys, let's kind of quickly go through the rest of the stuff I bring. You can see across the front here, I've already gone through a couple of them, but one thing I do bring, and this isn't really the main one I bring, I do have a bigger park tools, is the multi-tool. Probably the most important tool aside from the drivetrain cleaning and all that stuff is this multi-tool. Almost all really mid-level to high-end bikes don't have any nuts and bolts on them nowadays aside from maybe the racks, but most modern day bikes are using all Allen keys, so a good multi-tool with anywhere from a 2 to a 6 is really crucial to keep with you. This one has a couple extra little features like a Torx wrench on it and a flathead screwdriver, stuff like that. So keeping a good multi-tool with you is going to be crucial. There's many good varieties out there. Crank Brothers makes good multi-tools. I highly recommend all the Park Tool stuff, guys, if you're looking for good tools. You're going to pay for it because they are kind of the premium tool when it comes to bike mechanics, but I really do recommend Park Tools when it comes to different things. And I do have another multi-tool, like I said, just a bigger version of this with more actual hex wrenches on it. So a good multi-tool, guys, make sure you get one. Okay, another thing that I like to carry too, and I'm going to show a detailed little picture of what's in here, but is kind of, I call my tubeless flat setup. So in here, I've got a plunger, some bacon strips. I got an extra tubeless valve. I also have my quick links in here for my chain. I've got some tube patches that I carry with me, and that all just fits kind of really neatly right in here. Of course, it's going to give me a hard time right now. This all just fits neatly right in there, and that's all I carry for that. And this is going to save your life. On my Cross Canada trip in Newfoundland, I took 2 really crazy punctures in a 3-day span, like 2.5-inch decking screws through my rear wheel, and the tubeless setup was flawless. So those of you that are a little apprehensive about tubeless, like I said, we'll just talk about that real quick. Tubeless is the way to go, in my opinion, especially touring. You got weight on that bike, and the most common flat, and any bike mechanic that's spent any time working in a bike shop will tell you the most common flat is a pinch flat, which is when you're a little bit underinflated and you hit something hard, a hard edge or anything, and the tire pinches the tube between the rim and it looks like 2 snake bites, and then you get a flat. So getting rid of the tube eliminates that scenario altogether. You always need to carry, and I'll show you, I always carry a spare tube with me. You always need to, because you could take a real disastrous sidewall puncture that no tire is going to survive. If you have a tube, you can do some things with it. You can make it work. So even though I've never had to use the tube, knock on wood, in 5 years, you still should carry one. I will admit, for full disclosure, this last touring season this year, I did not carry a tube, and I got really lucky. I'm just going to say that. So you should always carry a tube with you, even though you're probably not going to use it if you have a good tubeless setup. All right, another things that I carry with me is just this Park Tools chain breaker. And then this is just like to set the quick link or to release it. You don't need to carry this, but it does come in handy. The chain brake is really good to have, just in case you do have an issue with your chain and you need to do some MacGyvering on the side of a trail. Yeah, chains need to be a proper length to shift properly, but in a real worst case scenario where you have a mechanical failure and you need to shorten that chain just to keep you going, this will save your ass. So having these things, again, things you'll probably never use, but if you do have to use them and you don't have them, it's really frustrating. So these things don't take a lot to carry, but they're necessary. So then a bunch of little stuff I carry, guys, is this is a brake caliper insert. So if you take your wheel out and you don't want, what happens with disc brakes, hydraulic, if you take your wheel out and then you press the brake with no rotor in there, it will introduce air into the system, and you don't want that. So when you take the wheel out, this takes the place of the rotor. It just slips right up there, clips on. Nice to have if you are getting a ride or anything like that. So again, something you're not going to use a lot, but really good to have. And then just like even though I have the multi-tool, this is a 4mm hex wrench, and almost all the bolts on my bike are 4mm hex wrench, so just something I carry again. Adjustable wrench, again, no bolts on the bike. Some of the things I carry are to help other people out, such as an 8 and 10mm wrench. I don't need them, but I've had to help other people out with pedals and stuff like that. So just stuff you can carry, doesn't take much room, but good to have for sure. So a couple other little odds and ends, guys, again, that you may not use. Zip ties. You may wonder why you'd want to carry some zip ties. And kind of one of the main reasons I've seen people carry zip ties is if your rack ever snaps at the bolts, zip ties can actually save your butt by being able to kind of, like I get, temporary situation, MacGyver it up so that you can get somewhere to get a fix, get things sorted out, right? Along with that, Gorilla Tape. I don't usually carry a full roll. I'll usually wrap, maybe a quarter roll around something, around a tool or something like that. And then you just peel it off as you need it. But again, kind of like duct tape. It's kind of like the multi-tool, right? If anything happens, something snaps, this could just help you get to a town or to a bike shop or something so you can get a proper fix. Just a couple of parting thoughts on bike maintenance while touring. Like I said, don't get crazy about it. One thing I will tell you is if you're going to be doing a lot of bike touring, getting yourself good components is going to help in that maintenance and the longevity of all the stuff you have. You don't need to get the top end. If you're going with Shimano, you don't have to get XTR. So there's Shimano Dior, SLX, XT, and XTR. So you don't need to get XTR or even XT, which is what I use. The Dior Start is awesome. It has trickle-down effect of technology from XTR and XT that goes all the way down to it. The main difference between Dior and Dior XTR is weight. That's really the main difference. All the performance is there, all the technology is there as well. So if you're bike packing, like doing heavy bike packing, I don't really know that being a weight weenie is going to really work out for you, and you might find it very frustrating. So just keep that in mind. All right, guys, I just want to talk quickly about plans going forward. I've been all over the map lately thinking I want to go to Southern California, Florida, Costa Rica, Arizona, and all those things sound great, but unfortunately for me right now, I think I have to pump the brakes. I am going to, as you guys know, be doing the Great Divide Mountain Bike route in beginning of August 2025. I've already looked at flights. I'm kind of targeting July 28th to fly from Detroit to Calgary, Alberta. But yeah, that's kind of going to be my focus for going forward. So I'm probably not going to be going anywhere unless like the perfect scenario happens that I can make it happen, because there's many things that I have to do before this trip, for the trip, and also just for my life. So probably not going to be any other trips unless, like I said, something crazy happens. But this is also that I can be totally prepared financially, mentally, and all that stuff for the Great Divide Mountain Bike route, because this is going to be a bucket list thing, and I don't want any things like finances to ruin it like it has in the past for me. So all efforts going forward are for the Great Divide Mountain Bike route in August of 2025. So guys, like I said, 2025 is the year of the Great Divide Mountain Bike route. If you're watching this and you're new to the channel, I would love it if you would check out my channel memberships and join up the channel. It would be really great. It's a great way to help me out. It's a small amount of money every month, but if we get a big group of people together as a collective, it could really help things out. My plans with the channel memberships going forward are to make this an inclusive thing where maybe we can have some get-togethers. I can get some giveaways going and stuff like that. It's never going to be anything crazy. I'm not going to be giving away any bikes or anything like that probably, but yeah, I just think it's a great way. I've already made a lot of good friends through the channel memberships. I've done some riding with some of my channel members already, so it's a really awesome thing. And on that note, I just want to thank all my channel members for being part of the channel. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. We recently had 3 new members. First, Rick, Tabby, and Raul. So welcome to the Wandering Eye family. Really appreciate you guys signing up. It really means the world to me. So just a quick update for those of you that have followed along with my mental health struggles and my battle to, kind of get this life of mine sorted out. So things are still going pretty good. I'm still going forward, trying to figure out how to navigate what's going on with me and the anxiety and all that, but really seeing some light at the end of the tunnel, some positive things going forward. So probably the biggest thing for me is just realizing that this is going to be something that I have to be cognitive. Probably the biggest thing for me was realizing that this is something that I'm going to have to be battling for the rest of my life, but it doesn't have to be like it's been. Learning how to manage it is probably going to be the biggest thing for me. So what I just wanted to say was to all of you that have followed along and supported me in any way, I just really want to say thanks, guys. It's meant the world to me. It really has. When I first started all this, I didn't have a very big community and a lot of support, and I really did feel alone. And that has slowly changed since I started all this. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for helping me out and being there for me. I truly appreciate it. Okay guys, I think I'm going to wrap things up from here. If I missed anything or if there's anything you want to know, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. So the next video in the How I Bike Pack series is probably going to be about my bags and what's in them. So stay tuned for that. That should be a really helpful video for anybody getting into this, because it's been a real trial and error. And in fact, I'm still tinkering with my setup for the Great Divide mountain bike route, because it's going to be about a 2-month trip. So I do need to have a little more stuff with me than I might on a shorter trip. So yeah, stay tuned for that video, guys. I think it should be a really informative video. Other than that, guys, I hope you're getting out there and doing something you love, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.